must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Biafra, and Boko Haram, to Democratic Republic of Congo, of where we have seen a resurgence of the past military and conflicts coming back in that country. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced, killed, maimed, tortured, raped, several of them dying of hunger, starvation, and other natural causes. The fighting seems not to be ending. For the sake of Libya, the Libyan recognized international government is under siege in Tripoli from another faction recognized by Egypt, France, UAE, and other countries. Whereas the one in Tripoli is recognized by the UN, it has been bombarded, has been strangulated, and many millions of Libyans are dying of hunger, lack of water. The water system has been cut off. The bombardment goes on. In Democratic Republic of Congo, we've seen more of active rebel activities returning to the region after some silence has been observed. When we come to Cameroon, we see millions and millions of Amazonians slaughtered. Yet, when you come to Biafra, again millions and hundreds of millions and millions are worried, displaced, tortured by the Buhari regime. Yet again in the north, we see Boko Haram killing, maiming, abducting, and burning down villages in the same Nigeria. When you cross over to Central African Republic, the same is the history that has littered Africa. While all these events are taking shape, Africa is silent. Africa is not making enough efforts to find a solution to what is causing the problems in Libya, in DRC, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, Biafra, and now you add in Khartoum, Sudan. As people die, the people of Africa have no answers, have no solutions. There is nothing to endear to bring an end to the conflicts that have killed Africa. We seem to be new ones manufactured, old ones reignited, encouragement coming from external powers. One power that has been seen in the shadows of all these conflicts, especially the one of Libya that has escalated in the Sahara region of Africa, is France. When you come to Democratic Republic of Congo, the same country is in the shadows. The war can be seen is France. When you come to Cameroon, in the Amazonia, the one behind that has the key to bringing peace is France. Therefore, our question as Africans, why are we silent? Why are we not saying enough is enough of the wars? Thank you.
Way back in 1998, the late Secretary General of the United Nations by name Kofi Annan thought of an idea, brought an idea of saying the only way to bring world order where crimes committed that are not punishable in local courts, local countries, regional courts could be taken to an international crimes court. The Rome Statute and Rome Treaty of 1998 July was an offspring of already cooked DSGE intelligence system mechanism to keep Africa under check. Up to date, the French government pays 70% of the salaries of the International Criminal Court, from the porter to the judge to the prosecutor and the rest of the other people. This was a project of Kofi Annan and the Kofi Annan Foundation, followed by George Soros as an accomplice of Kofi Annan, brought in by Luis Moreno Campo and the entire system of the West, some countries in the West, to keep check on African countries that did not agree with the policies of the French and to their policies of Western culture. The International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Luis Moreno Campo agreed in all this that yes, he has been picking money, extra monies, and we followed the story together with my group in France, powerful investigators in France who worked together with me. And we found out that, truly speaking, Luis Moreno Campo, Fernandez Gumedi, the former judge, the president of the International Criminal Court, laundered the money, some coming from American banks themselves. This evidence was put in the ICC. In the case of Bashir versus the chief prosecutor, I filed an application which I still have and which I'm going to publicize again so that people can know that I was right. I've been vindicated because the American friends now have found that my credibility is real, that I was right when I stood up to say this court is corrupt. This court launders money, $17 million of United States money, laundered through Bahamas, through New York banks, back to Ocampo's personal assistant by then, called Fernandez Gumedi Silvia, who later on rose to the ranks of becoming the president of International Criminal Court. It has taken us time, energy, efforts, resources to investigate the corruption scandal that have rocked the International Criminal Court. Why should African countries continue to be in the ICC? Yet even the superpowers like America are saying no, we have enough courts to try our own people. Viewers, it has taken Americans over 20 years to listen to our voices when we told Rainburger in Nairobi that this court is a corrupt court.
Today, on the eve of September the 11th, I want to deliver a clear and unambiguous message on behalf of the President of the United States. The United States will use any means necessary to protect our citizens and those of our allies from unjust prosecution by this illegitimate court. We will not cooperate with the ICC. We will provide no assistance to the ICC, and we certainly will not join the ICC. We will let the ICC die on its own. After all, for all intents and purposes, the ICC is already dead to us.
A case of the Kenyan people. These cases in Kenya, the chief prosecutor called Fatou Bensouda put serious statements at the end of the cases, discharge and termination. In legal language, these cases pose a very serious threat in the future. What the people of Kenya can do, and they should do, is today to wrap up the work envelope. Because until this envelope is sealed, thrown in Indian Ocean, the chief prosecutor in the future will come and look for that envelope, use it to incriminate people again. It brings me back to the situation. America is sealing its journey out of the ICC. Why do you wait? Why don't you take this opportunity to seal your journeys out of the ICC? America is quitting, warning that it cannot no longer be a party to such an obnoxious court, a court that has no powers, that talks from this side and vomits from the other side, a court that cuts and pastes evidence, a court that buys witnesses, a court that incites incentives, gives incentives to witnesses of a passport and a relocation, then you tell lies about people. A court that sentences you as per the words there. Why should you leave a country that has a jury that checks on what the judges would do, the excesses of judges, and go to a country, a court that has no jury? Time has come for Africa to think. Do we need this court? Does Africa need this court?
We call for a non-violent revolution We call for a non-violent protest. We call for a non-violent march. This is what we are demonstrating to the world, and we have resisted Mr. Biya's army of occupation in our land, but this is a moment that we must continue to stand firm.
Of this nation.
Along with many other Cameroonians, many of you, as far back as the early 90s, and more frequently lately, I have insisted upon the imperative nature of genuine dialogue. Unfortunately, the government's solution has been cosmetic reforms and repression. Teachers, lawyers who raised legitimate concerns were either arrested or forced into exile. Doctors, important people in our society who asked for genuine dialogue, were met with punitive transfers and humiliation. It is regrettable that the government hasn't learned from the past.
We are ambassadors. We don't need anything again. The only solution to the matter is let the government solve this problem by giving our independent freedom.
We have a territory of our own. We recognize international boundaries. We have a language. We have a culture. We have our own laws. We have everything that is required by international standards to be a people and a nation and a state. The UN must give us this right.
We as a people, we have the right to self-determination, and we are determined to go our separate ways.
The people of the Southern Cameroons have suffered under the brutal regime of the annexationists, La République du Cameroun. We have suffered for 56 years, and we finally decided that enough is enough.
I think dialogue is the main solution, because the use of military has never been a solution to a problem concerning this kind of issues. So the government of Cameroon has to dialogue with the Anglophone regions to come to a compromise and let this problem be solved.
Now, we want to inform the whole world that the Southern Cameroonian prisoners of conscience in the jails of Yaoundé are on the second day of their declared hunger strike. Now, we want the entire world to know, because we are convinced that the regime in Yaoundé will be indifferent until they begin to die. While we encourage our brothers in this process, we also call on Southern Cameroonians to join them in a fasting, so that the whole world may know that we are a determined people.
Self-determination cannot be effective without self-defense. We are opposed to violence. We are opposed to war. But if La République, if the UN should continue to dilly-dally as they are doing, and La République comes now to attack our people, they are forced, they are bound by the law of nature to defend themselves.
Hail this land of glory, we the Amazonians pledge our loyalty.
I want to call upon the fellow Africans. Since 1957, when Ghana gained independence, there has been quite a lot of political, social, economic indicators on the African continent that show that Africa has progressed from pre-independence Africa to post-independence Africa.
Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever. From now on, there is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that, after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs.
66 years down the road, Africa finds itself, with the first country, Ghana, having gained independence, we find ourselves still locked up, controlled, manipulated, instructed, logistically supplied, equipped by foreign powers that dictate our agenda. Africa is endowed with plenty of minerals, resources, good weather. The climate is so favorable for the growth of food enough to sustain us. But we find ourselves in countries where hunger is killing people. Hunger is killing people because most of the people have taken to arms to fight wars, conflicts. Starvation has taken the place of development. In most African countries like Sudan, South Sudan, Central African Republic, Cameroon, Nigeria, in Biafra, and the north of Nigeria there is Boko Haram, Somalia in the Horn of East Africa. We have taken to conflict instead of development. Development was the key indicator. When Kwame Nkrumah made the first speech that seek ye African political unity, economic development will come automatically, he was right. The events happening in Libya today vindicates Nkrumah, vindicates Nyerere, Sekou Toure, and Nasser, the founding fathers of our Pan-Africanism. The events happening in Central African Republic, in Congo today, as the war of rebels ranges on between the rebel and the rebels and the government and the rebels, vindicates the founding fathers of this revolution. Our independence, therefore, was only on paper. Our independence, therefore, was only in symbols. Our independence also was in signs. Our independence also was in boundaries. That we received our flags, but we never received full independence as by the word independence. Most of the 3/4 of African countries, French-speaking countries, have their budgets being done in Paris. Is that independence? The Paris government or the French government does its budgets based on how much they will get from African countries. Is that independence? Is this the Africa that you want? Is it the Africa that we must look at? Is it the Africa that we shall leave for the future generation? If the answer to you is yes, then so be it. But if the answer is no, you agree with me that this is not the Africa we want to live for the future generation. Our generations and the future generation need to find a legacy. What is the legacy that Africa and African Union will leave for the future generation? The wars ranging in Libya, in South Sudan, in Khartoum, in Mogadishu, in DRC Congo, in Amazonia, in Cameroon, Boko Haram, Mali, in Mauritania, the uprisings in Algeria, all point to one thing, that yes, we are not yet independent. We are still controlled by external forces. Thank you. Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from the Republic of Kenya in Mombasa city headquarters and back in Berlin. Thank you very much. And those, our satellite systems that have come back to pick us now right from Berlin, Germany. Good morning. Good morning wherever you are in Germany waking up and wherever you are in Europe waking up. This is Punchline Africa TV. The only television that discusses Africa. It makes sure that we improve Africa, we discuss Africa, we see what ails Africa, what brings problems to Africa, what can we do to resolve some of the issues that Africa faces. This is our station, the station for the people, by the people, with the people of Africa. This is what we say it is the chance for people in Africa to air their views, to bring in their suggestions, solutions. What can we do to change Africa? This is a live program coming from Mombasa, the headquarters of this Punchline Africa, Nairobi. We are transmitting live. We shall go straight to the breaking news that is coming right from Cameroon, Amazonia. This morning at 5:38, I want to read the statement for the people of Africa. It is very sad that democracy in Africa has sunk so low, that democracy and the judiciary systems in Africa, dictatorship in Africa has sunk so low that this morning, without anybody understanding the situation of the people of Amazonia, darkness blew over Amazonia this morning, and I am reading the statement from the people of Amazonia. I want to tell the world that the struggle that we have been struggling against the dictatorial tendencies of Paul Biya, the massacre, the killings, the butcher, the policy, the killings of defilement, rape, forceful uprooting of people from their homes in Amazonia. We have exposed this to the international community. We have cried out for the international community to help the people of Amazonia to reach a peaceful discussion and end. There is no other solution other than a two-state solution. I don't see anything happening after what Paul Biya has done to the people of Amazonia. This morning, a communication from the people of the legal team and the media committee of the defense team of Seseku, Ayuku, Julius Tabe, and others who have been incarcerated in a military barracks, not a civil prison, in Yaoundé. Let the entire world know and be informed that at exactly 5:38 a.m. this morning, Tuesday, the 20th of August 2019, the President of the Federal Republic of Amazonia and 9 others have been sentenced to life imprisonment in prison, in a military tribunal, in gross violation of their rights and in gross violation of condemnation by the international community. They have been given life sentences by a military tribunal in Yaoundé, headed by none other than Paul Biya himself and his cohorts, who have been killing, maiming, slaughtering, raping, defiling the people of Amazonia. We call upon the people of the world to stand up against such dictatorial tendencies. We call upon the African Union to condemn such actions that make Africa ugly. We call upon member states of ECOWAS the East African Community, SADC. We call upon all organizations worldwide, men, people, activists who can stand up, speak like me, to condemn actions of this nature for sentencing people to life simply because they said they wanted power, they wanted electricity, they wanted rights, they wanted a state under Resolution 1608 of the United Nations General Assembly, which empowered the people of Amazonia. It must be condemned by the world. We in Africa cannot keep quiet about Amazonia and the Cameroonian conflict anymore. It has gone beyond the level that any African would sit and smile and walk around the world and say, I'm an African. When you have people being butchered, eaten, roasted, cut to pieces, dragged on motor vehicles behind with tires, tied behind what we call in East Africa Kandoya. It is not our duty, and we cannot call ourselves Africans when we allow such heinous crimes to be committed against a certain section of African people on the continent, and we keep quiet and watch the situation go as it is. I call upon African Union, I call upon the Secretary General, the Chairperson of African Union, to take a firm stance against Yaoundé for the gross misrepresentation, for the gross injustices, for the misabuse of human rights that are taking place in Amazonia. There is no time that I will spend on this planet Earth trying to salvage an image of a dictator. There is no time that I will stand as an African at my age, fail to condemn dictatorship. There is no time that I will be a man who watches, understands, and watches whether where Africa must be the same, united, integrated. Good morning, Africa. That is the breaking news right from Amazonia in Yaoundé. A court has slammed 9 others, and including the interim president of Amazonian people, to life imprisonment without parole in a military tribunal, and they were not taken to a civil court where they could have proper representation. They were sentenced at 5:38 in the morning. I have never seen a court that works very late, very dark, in a darker place, in a darker format, because they knew the repercussions would have been so huge, yet they sentenced these people very early in the morning, and then they smile, they come to African Union, they come to Addis Ababa and tell us that they are part of the African Union. Shame upon African Union. Viewers, let's turn to Uganda, to East Africa, and to our program. Our show tonight, this morning, right from Mombasa, our headquarters, and back in Nairobi, and back again in Berlin. We use satellite to pick all what we are picking live. It is very, very important for you people to understand that we stand here for Africa. We have no regrets. The words that we say here, we have nothing to do. We don't fear. We don't work for any puppet governments. A government of Paul Biya is a puppet French government. It's part of the proxy war that we fight in Africa. Our topics today range from one, and as I promised you, we talk about Uhuru legacy. President Uhuru Kenyatta legacy. The legacy that has brought about that must be there. Hook or crook, we must have it. There is no shortcut. We must deliver the legacy. We must finish what we started. We must continue to stand up to be known that we are part and a parcel of a moving Africa, a train of Africa, a train of development, a train of unity of purpose, a train of cohesion, a train of national cohesion, a train of no electoral injustices. Yesterday, I was discussing electoral injustices in Kenya. What has happened in Kenya? You can hold 2 million referenda. I swear before God that if you have not resolved the electoral mechanisms, the way you want elections to be conducted, the way you want your people to come on table, how do you elect your MP that even if you are a minority group, even if you are the marginalized group in Kenya, you still have a say in parliament. You have the cream of parliamentarians sought out through proportional representation of the people of Kenya. There will be no conflict. You can academically write these documents on Punguza Muziko, run around to collect money from George Soros. But if you have not solved the biggest problem of this country, called electoral injustices and malpractices and the systems that don't deliver to Kenyans, the bill will be higher than what you think you are reducing. Therefore, those who think that Punguza Muzigo carries their day, you have a shocker that it won't carry the day, simply because it doesn't solve your problem. It does not solve Kenya's problem. Kenya's problem, and most of African countries' problem, is electoral injustices. It is elections. It is elections. Every 5 years, we have to tell morticians in city mortuary, in mortuaries around Africa, to extend space because dead bodies are arriving. That is the cancer of Africa. Elections. Elections everywhere. Look at what is happening in my own home country, Uganda. Elections. Tension is high because of elections. When the elections are not there, we are all peaceful people drinking from the same cup. Elections in Africa create us the problem. Paul Obiya fears elections. That's why he has detained his friends. Paul Obiya has destroyed his friends because of elections. Paul Obiya goes further to destroy other people's rights because he fears to be challenged. He has no mechanisms of electoral justice to surrender the rights of the people of Abazonia for them to go and remain as Abazonians wherever they are. Viewers, the tragedy of Africa is hinged on poor justice. Let's look at this. In Kenya, judiciary under the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta, if we don't clean it, we have nothing to say, and we shall not tell our people of the future generation that there was once a legacy. I want you to look at this clip. I want you to see what it says. I want you to see facts. I want you to see for yourselves what has happened and what happens in the judiciary. I have been on record. Steve, you collected that. I've been on record telling Kenyans that the judiciary headed by Chief Justice Maraga of Kenya is a judiciary. The judge is incompetent. Is an incompetent, inept, not able to know the head, the tail, the legs, the arms. It doesn't know. I have been telling people, I have no regrets. I have no problem with anything that Maraga does, but I have a problem with his incompetence. Maraga is incompetent. Maraga is not able to know what happens in that court. He has no direction for this court. He has allowed injustices to be in the court instead of the court dispensing justice. There are so many things that bring us to this conclusion. And one of them is exactly that I want to touch today. I want to touch it because it pains me. It pains me that it seems for us we actually applaud thieves. Once a thief, you are a thief. You don't become rehabilitated because thieves are not easily rehabilitated. They can only be a bit of medicine to cool down, but once they see the food again, a thief will steal. Once you see even the little that you have, it is stolen. A thief is a thief. And we have stated that. We have no regrets for stating what we have said. We have no regrets for being on the forefront to tell the courts that the courts have a problem. Let's switch on and see what the Kenyan Chief Justice has been up to of late. Let's see a clip that will show you what is going on in this court. It will shock you. It is the question of what do you do? What can you do to solve a problem? It is a question as we talk and tackle, what can the legacy bring to President Uhuru Kenyatta? Can Uhuru Kenyatta leave a legacy with a judiciary as corrupt as the judiciary, as Maraga's judiciary? Can we change something? Can something be done for the sake of the people of Kenya to make sure that there is something that is different from what we have as people of Kenya and East Africa? Let's look at the clip if we are ready. Good morning, viewers. Welcome back to our second part of the show, where we show you what is going on, what's wrong in the judiciary. You have seen it for yourselves. You have seen what has happened in the Kenyan judiciary. The incompetency that takes place, the type of scandals that we see coming out from a foreign court. This is sad. It is very sad in the situation that we have a judge who has taken over the judiciary and he doesn't take decisions. We are in a limbo, the state of limbo. The problems that the judges and the judiciary put on the governance of this country are many, including the revenue discussions. The judges can't come out to help, to direct which direction. They fear if they say the MPs are wrong, they think the MPs will throw them out. If they say the senators are wrong, they feel there will be. It is a decision that can be done in the Supreme Court with an advisory note from the Supreme Court. Viewers, I leave it to you that there is need for us in Africa to change our direction. Our direction in Africa has difficulties, and those difficulties will be seen if we don't accept the legacy that there is time for everything and there's time for a legacy. And that legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta, in this doing so, he must clean the judiciary of the Republic of Kenya. There is need for that cleaning. There is need for the people of Kenya to be told why certain things happen in court, and only in court, and only in court, but not elsewhere in this world. The second point under the legacy is corruption. We have seen several, efforts. A lot of effort has been made. If you look at the headlines, how Tycoon beat up the police of his game, the headlines of Daily Nation, why Raila is the man to watch, while the opinion is divided on whether he can stand as the presidential candidate. This is the politics that has retarded. On the headline of Daily Nation, we see Somalia jumps the gun on oil wells. Well, in the second part of our show, which is coming in 10 minutes, in about 9 minutes from now, we shall discuss in depth. We shall go deeper. We shall analyze. That I told you, I have been on the forefront warning African countries that there is a superpower in Europe that is decided and managed and has made a stand that it will cripple Africa. Today, I'm not very far from it. Today, I am vindicated. There are those who thought that I only shout on television without facts. But you can see for yourselves that there is a superpower in Africa, in Europe, that is destroying these countries. That superpower is well known. I have been honest. I have told the world what it is, and I'm going to discuss it in the second part of this show. The headline of Somalia jumping the gun to sell the wells before we arrive. I will trace the story for you. I will not looking at any, I don't need to read this document because I know the troubles of what is ailing Africa. I want to be very proud I want to stand as a proud African that I told you that if you don't listen to me, there's little you can do. The only thing you can do is to weep and cry and cry and cry. You can cry, but Africa will not be the same. You can cry, but Africa cannot be the same until you solve this problem. The problem that has happened in Amazonia, this is a country in Europe that wants human rights to be observed by all African countries, but it abuses human rights together with Paul Biya in Cameroon. You can't sentence people very early in the morning at 5:38, sentence them to life, and France continues to enjoy the fruits of this continent, Africa. That's the headline and one of the sub-headlines in the Nation newspaper of Kenya. If you look at page 12, you can follow my analysis. When you look at page 12 of what this young investigative journalist has written, you would think it is from the moon. But these are the things that he has gone to my website and looked at what I've been telling people about Somalia. It is very, very, very dangerous for academics, for a scholar to prevent the space of another scholar. It is very dangerous politics for you not to accept that there are people who are better in this subject than yourself. As a scholar, remain committed that there is space for improvement. But there are people in this country who want to suppress any other scholar from saying the truth about this issue of Somalia. It's a sorry state, and we are going to begin to reap the fruits of such people who are selfish, who would like to be seen that they know what they are doing, yet they don't know. It is sad that the Somali issue reaches this level, and yet we have not done any international activism on it. It is sad that a country that has no central bank can molest us who have a central bank. It is sad that we have given them the sanctuary. We have allowed our Ugandan troops to die on a daily basis to protect a government that is a surrogate of international imperialism. It is sad, therefore, that as I speak today, I have no regrets, because you will not defeat me on this subject. The subject of international conspiracy, you can't defeat me. You can pretend to know contacts. There are no contacts you have, because you won't have them and eat them. These are the same people who pretended to know more about ICC, yet they didn't even know what it stands for. Today, we have a malaise which is ringing around the Indian nation archipelago, which is going to destroy the international peace that was here, the regional peace, the killing of our AMISOM, our Ugandan troops, by the Somali nationalism that will rise if we allow this to go unchecked. And we are not going to keep quiet. The Somalis should not take us to be stupid, to keep quiet. We sacrifice our children and men and women to protect them. They must respect us who have sacrificed. We cannot have surrogate leaders like a Famijo coming into an open confrontation with us who are suffering, who are dying because of Somalia. Time has come to tell the truth. Time has come to stand for the truth. Time has come to tell Somalia enough is enough. The leaders of Somalia, not all Somalis, the leaders of Somalia who have hijacked Somalis, the leaders who have dual passports, dual nationals, who can run to their homes and leave Somalia and Africa burning. Time has come for us to tell them that now it is an international arena where all of us are stakeholders. It is very naive for you to tell me I'm not a stakeholder in the conflict between Somalia and Kenya. Then you must be mentally derailed. Because I have troops, I have brothers from my own county, my own parish, my own clan, who are serving in AMISOM, who are in Somalia. I therefore stand to have a stake to speak about any conflict that is going to come to destroy any peace that is around that region. I'm going to be very harsh. I have no prisoners of laziness in brains. If people are lazy in brain, try to do something else, but don't try Masanga. I will tell you what I feel. Time has come for us to take another step, another direction on the issue of Somalia. Stop capturing it as if you know more about it. Spread it to other people to help you. You cannot hop around and issue statements telling us, appearing in the papers. It is not helping us. You must fight. Activism internationally can help us to expose these companies, these nations that are actually fueling a conflict in the Great Lakes region and in the Horn of Africa. We are not going to keep quiet. We shall not be intimidated because some people earn salary. We don't earn salary. We are freedom fighters of Pan-African vision. We are not going to keep quiet to allow Somalia to be used as a battleground for neocolonialism. Hangover that has spread with documents coming out now showing that half of the people in Somalia are either having interest in Qatar, in Paris, in Washington. We are not going to create General Haftar Khalifa's situation in Somalia, in the Great Lakes region. If you want to do that, kill us first, finish all of us. But some of us are going to speak without fear of contradiction. Thank you very much. Let's take a break. When we come up at the top of the hour, we shall discuss the news headlines. And our topic today is very sincere topic that I've chosen for the people of Africa. It touches the entire continent of Africa. It touches the politics of proxy wars. Is Africa sinking because of the politics of proxy wars? Again, I will bring in Somalia and Kenya row. I will bring in Burundi and Rwanda row. I will bring in Uganda and Burundi and Rwanda row. I will bring in Sudan, South Sudan row. I will bring in quite a lot of case studies and even go back to the Amazonian proxy, politics of proxy. Politics of proxy wars in Africa. Are we fighting our own wars for other people? Who in Africa is fighting for other people? Are other people envious of our development that they always retard us and give us wars to kill each other? The proxy war that ranges all the way from Biafra in Nigeria. It comes all the way down to Cameroon, to DRC Congo. It flows through Rwanda, the Burundi. It now has jumped Somalia and Kenya. It wants to bring in other countries to divide the East Africa and African unity. Are we sinking in the proxy politics of proxy wars in Africa? Don't go away. Keep watching. I am now tuned and hot to deliver some blows to some people. If you are an academic who pretends to know something about Somalia and you want to know more about the regional dynamics of geopolitical situation, get a pen and talk to us. Listening to people who don't want others to share the views is part of human nature that killed Malcolm X. Malcolm X was never killed by a white person. Malcolm X was betrayed by a black person. The worst thing that Malcolm X said, which is the truth, is that never tell a black man or a black person the truth. If you tell him you're a thief, he will hate you because you have said he's a thief. He wants you to tell him you are a very good God-laughing person, and we like the way you laugh as you go around us, and we praise you, hallelujah. You are not a thief. You are a very good person. That is what killed Malcolm X. He died of bullets, organized, arranged, equipped, supplied by none other than black people themselves. The danger of us speaking as we speak is the travesty of the rest. It is what kills Africa. We don't speak out. This conflict of Somalia and Kenya, in the Kenyan maritime conflict, could be solved. But there are people who are selfish. They would like to hold this as their own brief, as an eating ground. I'm sorry. I'm not part of that. I'll say the truth. I'm a Ugandan, and I feel anybody who disrupts the peace, who brings Kenya to fight Somalia or Somalia to fight Kenya, destroys my brothers who are in AMISOM and the sisters who are in AMISOM dying. So I have a right. I don't need your permission in your place for me to file what I need. I have a right to discuss the case because internationally I see it. I see the dangers. It is touching regional peace. Therefore, I will discuss it. And I'm going to do it as firmly as possible. And you will see the results. You cannot allow a country that we have helped, that we have babysitted, that we have given everything to molest us, yet our people are dying on a daily basis. Thank you. Keep watching. Thank you very much, viewers. Today, COMESA is sitting in Nairobi to find out how free trade can unite the countries of COMESA and Africa. The trade in Africa has been a trade of cut off, cut on, put back, switch off, switch back. The common market for East and Central Africa and Southern Africa, which is commonly known as COMESA, puts us a step forward towards integration of Africa and accelerates the integration of Africa. I believe in building block by block of integration of Africa. I believe in building inch by inch, country by country, removing all the tariffs that have hindered Africa from trading freely amongst themselves. Africa's population can buy its own goods. African population can purchase, can import materials that are not needed, that are not in Africa, but can import from each other the materials that are available. This can be done without any further push, any further pull from any of the countries. You might have differences with Europe, but you can also solve those differences by uniting with Africa in order to trade with Europe. It is therefore very important for Africa and Africans to encourage such meetings, like the meeting that is attended by President Museveni, President Uhuru Kenyatta, President Lungu, President of Madagascar, and other COMESA leaders who are in town to discuss the trade, free trade amongst COMESA countries. The East African Common Market of the East African Community is one of the blocks that will build COMESA into an African free trade zone. I encourage, I support, we stand by all the deliberations that are being conducted in Nairobi. Thank you, viewers. Thank you very much, viewers. Welcome to our last show, our last part of the show. In this last segment, I'll do two things. I'll first talk about the politics of proxy wars that are sinking Africa and East Africa. I'll show you how proxy wars in Africa have affected us Africans. Do we fight wars that are not ours? Is Africa at the verge of killing itself through the direction of the international community? Some time back, I have been a victim of saying the truth, and I'm happy. At times, the truth vindicates me. Way back in 2010, George Soros, the French government, Kofi Annan Foundation, decided and schemed that Africa must have a type of administration different, where regimes are overthrown through mass uprisings and Arab type of spring that we saw in Tunisia and we saw in Egypt. Way back, by then people were not aware that the American hegemony had given part of the CIA network to operate under George Soros, to make sure that George Soros funds, equips, supplies, logistics, monetarily, to any regime, to any person, to any dissatisfied people, whether rightly or wrongly, to go and attack the main pillars of governance in Africa. It has been going on, building up. We saw the ICC indictments in Kenya. We saw how it divided this country to pieces, with some leaders calling for their friends to be hauled into the ICC, to be killed and be sentenced and locked, never to come back, to take part in the political dispensation of this nation. We have seen countries in the west of Africa, namely Ivory Coast, falling in the way of the war of proxy, a proxy war fought against Babugo by the French. It is the French that sparked the Ivorian Coast war. The Cote d'Ivoire war would not have been there. An election sparked the happenings where thousands and perhaps millions of people were displaced, killed, maimed because of France. That same war today is just kept dormant, but it can spring. It has spread wings. If you look at what is happening in Mali, if you look at what is happening in Mauritania, if you look at what is happening in Libya, you'll understand the point where I'm coming from. You'll understand my seriousness as an African, why I cry for this continent. The war in Mauritania, in Mali, in Ivory Coast, in Boko Haram, in Nigeria, is a proxy war funded, equipped by a superpower that destroyed Libya. All of you know what the superpower is. All of you know what the superpower has done. All of you know what Libya today is. the type of fight in Mali, in Bamako, the killings of people in Mali by Islamic fundamentalists, ISIS and other groups, the Al-Qaeda Maghreb cells have woken up. Who supports them? Who equipped them? The destruction of Libya opened a Pandora box around the Mediterranean Sea, where we see quite a lot of difficulties as we stand and sit today, talk about it. Crossing over to Cameroon, the Amazonian question is a proxy war on the people of Amazonia by the French. The French are aware of what is going on in Cameroon, but the French have not in at all tried to stop President Paul Biya in the killing of Amazonians. Instead, they are sentenced to life. No statement from Paris. Crossover to Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm bringing you this stressing of this magnitude, such that people can understand that it is the same country that has dismembered the vast lands of Africa. It is the same country in Europe that is on the permanent representatives of the United Nations Security Council that kills us and takes us to the Security Council to be hammered, sanctions, to be done what we are being done today as Africa. Africa, in Democratic Republic of Congo, Mr. Tshisekedi is facing a renewed insurgency, planted, exported, equipped by superpowers that fight for the minerals of Democratic Republic of Congo. Across the entire scope of Africa, in Central Africa, across, there is a proxy war. Who fights it? The politics surrounding it is still the politics of minerals, the politics of making sure Africa does not stabilize to make itself known as a superpower in the world. We have been destabilized. Our destabilization, enemy always keeps us disunited, always keeps us begging for this, begging for that, creating Ebola, creating AIDS. Has it been that it is on the Congo forest that the AIDS, Ebola emerges? Have you ever asked that when we finish this, we get this coming? Is it a miracle that all these diseases come from one place? Who has tried to keep us disgruntled, disfranchised? Who has kept Africa, fighting at all the times? The war in South Sudan tells your story. The company called Total Oil tells you the story, and the story comes in slowly from South Sudan. Total Oil came up, stood up openly and said they have not found oil, and I quote, they went to South Sudan to find and explore how to get oil. They didn't find it. They wound out their business, picked their goods, and arrived in Kenya and Uganda. They said it themselves. Total Oil, after seeing that we had pacified Somalia through AMISOM, 3 countries emerged in Somalia. And I'm being very honest. For those who want to listen to me. Those who might think it's a joke, it is your problem to explain in the future if you fail to listen. 4 countries emerged on the scene after we, Ugandans, Kenyans, Djibouti, Ethiopians, had done a dirty job. This superpower in the world waits for us to do a dirty job. Then it springs on us. It waits for us to do the dirty job. We do the dirty job for France and Total Oil to come in and tell us quietly to sponsor Somalia to go and accuse us in ICJ. We do dirty jobs. Our sons, our daughters, our brothers, our mothers are dying in Somalia to pacify Somalia. But here we are. We've done a dirty job. We finished. We have held Al-Shabaab at bay. Now they want to come to take what we have, which is this unity, keep us fighting with Somalia and the puppet governments that have been installed, whose ownership Somalis don't know. The surrogate governments and President Famijo of Somalia, who is a surrogate, used by imperial powers to dismember this region. This has to be discussed. This has to be brought on table and be brought out to the people listening to me. That when Total Oil said it is leaving South Sudan, Total Oil landed in Kenya. It wanted Ngamia 1 or Ngamia 2 or Ngamia 3. I don't know how many Ngamias are there. All along, NGOs that have been operating in the Capedo Triangle. The Capedo Triangle that presents Kenya security, internal security problems all the time from time to time. Who funds them? Look at the history of the NGOs. From what has happened in that triangle, you find that 3/4 of the NGOs are briefcase NGOs carried and funded by France. France, during the finding of Taluo oil by Taluo Oil Company and Heritage and other companies that went into the Turkana Triangle and that triangle, Total Oil was never involved. Total Oil came here and demanded a piece of the oil that was being produced in Kenya. They wanted it openly. Total Oil wanted to spend money on Lapset. It later on withdrew its backing for Lapset. Kenya government did not collapse because they withdrew. The Kenya government kept on and kept the hope that we shall make that Lapset dream come one day. After seeing that all things were not working, 3 countries emerged in Somalia. One of the countries that emerged in Somalia is Qatar, is United Arab Emirates, and take these notes seriously. And Turkey. Turkey, Qatar emerged as power brokers. And the Somali leadership kept on hovering between this and that, trying to see how many houses you can buy in Istanbul. Can I shock you that all Somali ministers have bought houses either in Qatar, Istanbul, or United Arab Emirates? It's a shame. Today, as we speak here, Ugandan troops are being maimed, killed, because they are defending Somalia. But at the same time, the Somali ministers and their president is buying property in Europe. What are we doing here? We have allowed the regime to use our blood to take money outside to call foreign proxy operators. And in this case, the foreign proxy operator who funded Somalis to go and choose Kenya in ICJ is France and Norway. The two countries saw an opportunity that they could grab the minerals, the resources of Somalia. They brought about politics of proxy syndromes. We need you to fight Kenya for us because Kenya refused to give us Ngamia 1 or Ngamia 2. They have given us nothing. We have been here. If you look at the history from West Africa to where I am now here, the politics of France is destabilization. There is no state where France has walked through which has been left standing without dismembering. Where Amazonia is gone, Cameroon is gone, Ivory Coast is gone, Chad is struggling, Nigeria is in chaos, Central African Republic is gone, South Sudan is gone, Khartoum, they funded the demonstrators, removed Bashir, installed the government. They are fighting whether it is Saudi Arabia, Qatar, or Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, or that Assisi of Egypt. You see what they are doing in that region. I want my people to understand and take notes, because some of these people refuse us to educate people about this politics. And they say, we know. When you tell them we know, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not. I'm an activist. And as an activist, I speak my mind. I'm not here to please any diplomat, whether white or black or UN or whatever. I speak my mind. It is up to the diplomats to be humble and don't tell the truth. France is the disturbing factor in this region. Behind the scenes, there are companies that are being lined up. If you look at the story on page 12 of the Daily Nation today of Kenya, how Somalia plans to sell the oil regions before the court case begins, you can come back and tell me that I was right. You can come back and say, I wish we took Dr. Matsanga's advice. This is the story. The story is very, 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 very interesting. The French keeping quiet through Norway. Where does Norway draw the... If you look at the payments of the delegates of the legal team of Somalia in the ICJ, the payments come through a bank in Paris. I have traced that payment. I know the company that is paying them. I know the person behind the company. And I have details. I will reveal it to the public of the world so that we know when the war erupts in Indian Ocean, because we must now put the record straight. We don't want it tomorrow. If the war takes place and the regional peace and the international peace is disrupted in the Indian Ocean, we need some countries in Europe to be accountable, to be removed from the Security Council permanent seats, because they are the people causing this war. It is very, very strange for people to please a country every time which dismembers us. Look at this story. It's a tough of oil companies. Who is Qatar? Qatar is a broker of who? Who is Ani Oil? Ani Oil Company is a Egypt, which is part of Italian oil company. They have come in a disguised manner, yet they are funding our own brothers to go and kill us and kill Amisom. I am not going to keep quiet about this, because Ugandans must be protected. Kenyans must be protected in Kismayo. The proxy war that we are fighting right now is not our war. It's a war of the French. They have ignited it and left us. to fight. If you think I'm stupid and I'm talking nonsense, look at the war between Burundi and Rwanda. Who is behind the war between Burundi? A proxy war, which has made President Nkurunziza never to leave his capital, Bujumbura, even to attend an East African community meeting. Who is it? The French. Who wants Kagame out? The French. Who has told Bujumbura that you will be overthrown? The French. Therefore, do we keep quiet? Do we continue to be slaves when we are enslaved 400 years ago? Do we continue to be the slaves of this master who masquerades as an investor, at the same time killing us Africans? Do we want to go that route? Do we want Amazonia to be the same as Sudan? Do you want the people to be killed and we watch? Do you want to bring a war, an economic resource war? Part of the problem of our African states is that they have implementation deficit of their policies. Kenya has got very good policies, but there is a policy of there's a deficit in implementation as far as the foreign policy is concerned. The matter of international law cannot be resolved through international courts. It is resolved by exposing some of these things that are hidden like this one. It must be picked up by international agencies that it is a resource-based conflict that is emerging in the Horn of Africa. It is a resource-based. And if we are not careful, these things are going to divide the East Africa and the African Union will be divided. Already Kenya is facing a backlash by Somalia going to vote for Djibouti in the United Nations Security Council rotational seat of 2 years. Exactly 3 years ago, Djibouti voted for Chad, for Mohamed Faki, the chairperson of African Union. I was in the hall. I saw what took place in that conference. We have no trust. Somalia actually became part of the brokerage that brokered to fail Kenya in their bid to take the seat. It is also very, very true that today we have those problems. And those problems are coming because we have difficulties that we see in this great country of ours. Viewers, I want to state categorically that this story is a story that must not be left to only diplomats. It is a story that has to be fought by all of us. It is a story that needs to be told. I want to stop here and I want to do a smaller piece touching the conflicts, the proxy wars that we see in Africa. Thank you. Thank you very much, viewers. Viewers, those listening to this step or this video, I want to bring to your attention that the politics of proxy wars in Africa is becoming real and it has become a reality. I want to bring to this the attention of the African states that time and time again we have fallen victims of proxy wars. We fight wars that are not ours. We fall in conflicts that are not supposed to be, don't help Africa, and they don't help our countries at all. The proxy war that is in East and Central and the Horn of Africa has been ignited, supported, equipped by France. It has been very real that the French government quietly through its company called Total Oil has been searching for resources around the triangle of East and Central Africa and the Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa. The LAPSET was one of them, which could have been a landmark project for the people of France. They withdrew from it. The Tanga to Mwanza, they made it, they withdrew from it. The search for oil and resources through Total Oil has brought us the dangers of a proxy war in the region. It is therefore very prudent for people of the region to understand the dynamics that we are going through. For example, in Rwanda and the Burundi conflict, there is a proxy war. We are fighting a proxy country has brought us to a war between the two countries, between Uganda and Rwanda and Burundi. There is a proxy war in Congo who is sponsoring a resurgence of rebels that are fighting President Tshisekedi because he was not supported by countries that we know very well. This type of strategy has happened in North Africa, where Libya has been reduced to rebels, where each faction, even the government supported by United Nations, is being bombarded by a rebel called Khalifa Haftar, who is funded by countries that we know. The question of Somalia and the Kenyan maritime presents a challenge, a test case for Africa and East Africa to stand firm and denounce the actions of countries that bring proxy wars and proxy politics in our region. It is therefore my humble submission that for this conflict, for this to end, we must do enough publicity, advocacy around the area to tell and explain to the international community why this problem is going to create an imbalance in the peace in the region, and the regional peace will be affected. It is therefore my humble submission that as a Ugandan whose troops, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers of other many millions Ugandans who are in Somalia, condemn any action by the Somali government to try to resolve issues that should have been resolved amicably as Africans within the African confines. I submit, therefore, that some of us will go a mile further to do now, from now onwards, to expose, to show the challenges of these countries that make us fight a proxy war in Africa. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you. Thank you.